thoughts are. Nintendo executives justify Mario Kart World's controversial $80 price tag. According to Doug Bowser, they haven't set a benchmark by pricing MKW $10 to $20 higher than the industry standard. The news about the upcoming Switch 2 and its lineup of new games has been overshadowed by the reveal that Mario Kart World will be priced at $80 for the digital version and $90 for the physical, which isn't really physical edition, sending shockwaves through the gaming community and sparking concerns that other AAA developers might follow suit. They definitely will, hiking prices for their own games without offering meaningful improvements in return. Addressing the controversy and gamers' backlash is Nintendo of America's president, Doug Bowser, who in a recent interview with the Washington Post attempted to justify Mario Kart World's price being higher than the industry standard of $70. Speaking to the Post, Bowser explained Nintendo's approach to pricing, saying they evaluate each game individually, set the price based on factors such as the development that's gone into the game, the depth of gameplay, longevity, and replayability. Nintendo insists that the $80 price tag doesn't set a benchmark. They will continue to follow a variable pricing model going forward. He also touched on the main point of concern in all this debacle. The real issue isn't just Nintendo raising prices, the possibility of other developers viewing the hike as a precedent and doing the same, essentially stating that Nintendo is focused solely on its own products, isn't particularly concerned with how its pricing decisions might influence the industry at large. I mean, you have to assume that this is the way these businesses would have to move forward. Like, do you think Rockstar gives a hot crap whether or not them setting a price tag of $100 or higher on GTA 6 affects what other companies do with their products? No, not at all. They are only concerned with whether or not people will buy said product at that price point, right? In a separate interview with IGN, Nintendo's Vice President, Player and Product Experience, Bill Trinan, echoed Bowser's comments on variable pricing, emphasizing that Mario Kart World is big and vast, and describing it as probably the richest Mario Kart experience to date. The qualities that, according to Trinan, justify its pricing being higher than any of previous standard edition AAA video games. Unfortunately, both interviews focus solely on the prices of the digital editions, neglecting to address the $90 price of the physical copies of Mario Kart World and the fact that Nintendo Switch 2's physical copies, air quote that, don't actually contain the games themselves, but instead act as keys to download the full game via the internet. What? So it's a digital copy. You're paying $10 extra for a box, right? So the game itself isn't included on the game key card, so you'll have to download it before you can play. What? Oh, so here's the thing, and this doesn't change my sentiments at all. Okay. Perfect world for us as gamers and consumers of video gaming products. We would pay for products appropriately for the quality of content, the everything would perform. So take that out of the equation. Every product that came out would perform flawlessly. Okay, so we know that's not the case. That's not the world we live in. But we would pay for the quality of content we got and the amount of entertainment we would get out of that product. That's also a perfect world situation, and that's not the world we live in, right? And so if this is the situation, and I've talked about this before, especially as prices have been going up on games, especially AAA games off the shelf, the situation is that you have all of these AAA budgeted games, these AAA games that get thrown into this AAA basket, and they get set at a default price rate, right? So they get set at a default price rate, but they're not all created equally. So you get some games that are at a AAA price tag that are actually well worth that price. Yeah. So take a game like, I don't know, RDR2, something like that, where you're going to get an incredible experience content-wise. You're going to get an excessive amount of gameplay, or something like Baldur's Gate 3, right? Different genre, same kind of thing though. An incredible amount of gameplay, great content. Even with Baldur's Gate 3, the replayability is insane. You get a ton of different endings you can pursue. There's just a lot to be said for something like that, right? And then, I don't know, take a look at something like AAA price tag for something like Immortals of Avium, yeah, out of EA recently, where it's, what, 15 to 20 hours of gameplay, mediocre gameplay experience, and, I mean, does that really compare? Does it match up? No, it doesn't. So, I think that perfect world, what would happen is that you would get these games set at a price tag that was appropriate for what you're getting out of them. But we know that that's not the way this works, right? Because the prices get set by the publishers themselves. And so, what I have been preaching for so long in my video gaming news segments is that us as consumers, the ones that are actually the foundation for supporting or not supporting companies in this industry, we are the ones that decide who does well and who does not do well, right? We are the ones that should be supporting good companies and not supporting bad companies in this industry. It's really up to us to be more concerned with who we should support and who we shouldn't support based on these products that come out and whether they are worth the price tag or are not worth the price tag. And look, this goes across the entire spectrum of, if you're playing a free-to-play game, you know, take for instance something like Warframe or Path of Exile. You're talking about incredible experiences at a free-to-play price tag. If you've been playing those games and the content is incredible, I can, you know, vouch for that. I've played plenty of hours in both those games. How much entertainment have you gotten out of a game like that for free? And have you even considered supporting that developer at all? Right? If you haven't, that's unfortunate, because you really should. They've given you an incredible amount of experience playing, an incredible experience and an incredible amount of enjoyment playing those games. And if you haven't thought about supporting those developers in what they're giving you in entertainment, that's an unfortunate thing. Whereas, you know, people will go spend $70 on something like Immortals of Avium and not think twice about trying to compensate a developer like GGG for Grinding Gear Games for Path of Exile, or, you know, Digital Extremes for Warframe. Ooh. And I think this is where we've got to be a little bit more concerned with who we're supporting and who we're not supporting and why we should or shouldn't. And it's a very, you know, subjective thing because everybody has different preferences in what you do. But I mean, that's what it comes down to, really, I think. We have to be more concerned with this. Now, I digress a little bit. Let's get back to the topic at hand here. Nintendo, right? These executives are trying to justify an $80 price tag. This goes back to the basically whenever we were at a $60 price tag, not in the too far past, right? $60 price tag for AAA games, and it went up to $70. And we had a lot of even our own gaming community trying to defend the price tag for AAA games going from 60 to 70, going, oh, well, it hasn't gone up in 20 years. It had. It just wasn't showing on an off-the-price shelf, okay? It had gone up in monetization in many different forms. Microtransactions in-game. You know, the DLC stuff that you have, you know, they want to battle pass everything. They, I mean, you name it, man. These companies have gotten to where they will take anything they can and make it something they can monetize to us as consumers and video game players, right? So you want to act like they're not getting their extra money off the shelf. They absolutely are. It just doesn't necessarily look like it. They're getting theirs. And as far as the console part of the industry is concerned, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, doing things like making their player base and consumers pay to play online, they're getting their extra money. So a game like Mario Kart World, they're justifying an $80 price tag based off of the content, the amount of gameplay and entertainment you're going to get out of that game. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Okay? But at the same time, they don't want to talk about, and they don't want you to think about the other things that you're having to pay for that are also part of that experience, like your monthly Nintendo subscription fee. You don't have to pay for that stuff on PC. You know that, right? No matter what platform you're really paying, unless you're paying for like a subscription to play an MMO or something like that. Why does console make their consumers pay to play online when you're buying dedicated first-party hardware to be a part of their platform in the first place, and PC has nothing of the sort? And you're not buying first-party, most of the time anyways, first-party hardware from Steam or Epic or, you know, GOG or any of the other main platforms. They just give you the connectivity and the ability to play those games online and stuff like that. You don't have to pay for it, right? So you're already kind of getting scammed a little bit, having to pay to play online, and that's something that people need to realize. You're paying extra to play these kinds of games anyways. The other thing you have to remember about Nintendo games, yeah, these games never go down in price ever. Ever. These mainline Nintendo first-party entries always stay at their price point they're released at. Don't forget that. This is not a first-party PlayStation or Xbox game that 6 months to a year later will go down by $20, $25. This game will stay here forever. You might be able to get a discount on it on a sale once or twice a year. But as soon as that sale's gone, about a week later, it will be right back up there at $80. Yeah? So there are things to keep in mind about this situation that Nintendo is imparting upon their consumers and their player base that they don't want you to think about. They just want you to hear their words and their reasons for justifying things when it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you consider the big picture, if you will. All these things that I'm kind of throwing at you right now, when you think about everything else they're getting out of you, and they have been for years, let's be honest. You know, they want more. Just like a lot of these companies do, yeah? But they only want you to think about a small part of it where they can try and get you to justify, put some blinders on and get you to justify and go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Okay, well then I guess, yeah, I'll go ahead and buy it, right? So think critically about this. And again, everybody's budget's different. Everybody's going to have a different feeling about what this means to them as far as what the price tag is and stuff. But you cannot deny the fact that it's not just the game they're getting you to pay for. There's the game. There's the online component you're having to pay for because most people want to play this type of game online. There's also the DLC that you know will come out for this game later. They're getting theirs. And the more that they get people to buy into a higher off-the-shelf price tag, the more they know they can continue to raise that price tag and people will continue to buy into it. That's a fact. And they're going to continue to get their money off of you on the back end of it too. This does set a bad precedent for us as consumers. They might not care what it means for other players in the industry about setting a precedent for them as what they can set their own product at price-wise. But I'll tell you what, it absolutely sets a very bad precedent for us as a community of video game players and consumers of video game products. Because the more that people buy into this kind of stuff, when it continues to happen and prices continue to go up, the more that tells Nintendo and other companies like them that they can continue to do this to us. Think hard about this. Think hard about this.